Welcome everybody to Dev Jaguar 66. I wanted to put this video together because I've had quite a lot of emails from people about classic car restorations and ownerships of classic cars, and so I thought I'd put this together. It's just kind of 10 tips. I'm not an expert in restoration. I'm somebody that's done it I've done it for quite some time. And I've done quite a few cars over the 61, nearly 62 years I've been around, well, from the age of 17 on, basically. So 50 odd years anyway, at least. And these are things that I've picked up from my own experiences, from other people's experiences, and just things to be careful of and to watch what you're doing and what you're buying. So what I've done is so I don't go over anything twice, I've made a little list here, so I'll have to refer to this as we're going along. But basically, I've called it the reality of classic car restoration, or top 10 classic car restoration tips or facts. The first thing I wanted to say is, if you're interested in buying a classic car, the first thing you should be thinking about is what is the model that you're interested in, and it has, when you're restoring a car, it's so time consuming and so expensive, or it can be expensive depending on the model, that it should be something you really have an affinity with, something you've always liked. You know, if you start to go to the exotic end of things, you're talking very expensive. And classic car ownership and restoration can be done on a budget. You know, these are things that I'm going to go over now, but you know, if you realistically like something, it could be a Ford Popular, or an Anglia, or a I don't know, a Vauxhall Cresta. It doesn't matter what it is. A Fiesta, a Volkswagen GTI. It doesn't matter what it is. But be realistic about what it is you want. I mean, I'm sure everybody would like a Lamborghini Miura, wouldn't we all? But you know, this is out of most people's price ranges. So, as I said, I'll keep referring to this list, but so the idea to me that you buy a car and think, okay, I'll restore it, rebuild it, and then I'll sell it on for more money, it's a myth. I can tell you now, the unfortunate thing is that people who have classic cars, they put so much time and love and work into it that they all believe the cars are worth more than the actual value. And at the end of the day, the value of the car is what somebody's prepared to pay for it. It's as simple as that. It's like a house or whatever. You know, you can put any price you like on a car, and you will see that the market at the moment is very buoyant, especially for the top end, or cars over £100,000 or £80,000. It's quite buoyant, and there's a simple reason for that. We've had a massive downturn. There's virtually no interest from the bank on your money, so people are buying classic cars like they would paintings or antiques, and that's why it's very buoyant. The classic car market normally is a 7-year cycle. Like most things, it's about a 7-year cycle, and it dips back down. And some cars will suffer and some won't. And the rarity of a car will make no difference really to the market, depending on what it is. You can have a car, you know, a car that's got a limited run of 2,000 cars or 3,000 cars, and think, well, it's very rare, and you know, I'll make money on it. That's not the case. It depends on what it is. So you have to be very careful. Okay, the second point is budget. So many people, and I've done it myself, I'm a victim of this myself, is they look at a car, they budget it for panels and parts and pieces, and don't take into consideration consumable items, the electricity, the time you put into it, the driving backwards and forwards, the getting stuff through the post. So, you know, if you make a budget, you can guarantee it'll go to 25 or 50% more. It can even double in some cases. Because until you start pulling a car apart, you really don't know what you're getting into. The classic case of this is the Mini Cooper now. You know, I bought the car for a reasonable amount of money, and I bought it sight unseen on eBay, which in retrospect was a stupid thing to do, and I would say to everybody, do not do that. Go and check the car first. Physically look at it and inspect it properly, because it will come back and bite you. But the car was a reasonable price, and all the parts that were in it, like the Cobra seats and the mag wheels and all this kind of stuff, added up to more than half the value of the car. So that's why I bought it. I knew it needed a new subframe, but I didn't realise it was so bad on the front, or it had been damaged on the front. Anyway, so budget is something that you really need to think about. The other thing is you know, the time and money and the equipment and the space that you have to do a restoration. You know, if you take a car apart, in most cases you need at least 2.5 bays. So if you've got a lock-up garage, you've got nowhere to put any of the parts, the doors, the boot, the windows, and they need to be stored somewhere. So this is something you really need to think about. You know, and time-wise, if you're doing this on the weekends or at nights, which a lot of people have to do because they have to work during the week to make money and to live, you know, or if you're retired. You know, I worked in the oil business. I worked away overseas many years, and I bought the Jaguar 1 year before I retired, and I really wanted to get into it and start stripping it down, but I knew it would be on and off for a month at a time as it was working 28. So, you know, I left it for a year, and it was very hard for me to do because I really wanted to get after it, and I thought, no, I'll wait until I retire, then I can concentrate on it. But it still took 4 years, and this is being retired because family holidays come into it, trips or going out or whatever it might be, or the garden, pool, whatever. So bear all this in mind. The next thing I was going to say to you is you do not need to be an expert to restore a car. Absolutely not. My brother-in-law has some MGs, and he knew the basics of cars. You know, he could maybe change a set of points, do the oil, that kind of stuff. But he really got into the MGs. He's had some from when he was quite young, and he's learned about them through the internet, through reading about it, through being in the MG club and so on and so on. So it can be done. You don't have to be trained or be a mechanic. You can do it, but you have to be realistic about what you take on. So what I'm saying is it can be done. You do not need to be an expert, and people that tell you that's not true are talking shit. So there's a lot of anomalies, or there's a lot of people try and make it more difficult or make it a bit of a black art, you know, like lead loading and wiring, than it really is. It can be done, and it can be checked through the internet, and it can be, you can do it. It might take longer, you might have to learn some skills, but it can be done. So don't be afraid to do that. Okay, the next thing is project cars. Now, what type of car do you go for? Do you go for a project that's in pieces that somebody's had for years and never got around to doing it, or lost interest in it? Or do you buy a car that's in perfect condition or looks perfect condition? Or do you buy just a runner? You know, these are things you've got to look at. You've got to look at and decide, look, do I want to take this car, take it right back to bare metal, rebuild it, and I know it's 100% correct, which is what I did with my E-Type. That's why I bought the worst car I could find that was 95% complete but a matching number car, because most of the E-Types are rotten internally because they're monocoque construction. They badly rust from the bottom 30% below the bumper. So this is why I decided to do it that way. But I had the time, I had the money, and I had the equipment and the space to do it. These are so important, these things. A project car is going to be cheaper, but if it's all in bits and it's in boxes, it's near impossible to find out if everything's there. And parts you don't have for an older car can be a problem because you can't then exchange them for another part. The information, all the information you need is on the internet, it's in books. I mean, there's manuals, there's you know, like for instance, this is a restoration guide. I have so many books here on different things, electrical, this is XKs, E-Types, Minis, Auto. And you need to just read through these things, and believe me, the information you get, it's all on the internet. Some is not right and some is good, but you'll always find somebody. But join a club and they'll be okay. One of the last things I wanted to show you is I've got a thing here. It's called an endoscope. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute you go out and buy one of these, but they're not that expensive. This is a colour one. They're about €100 or something like that. You can see. I'll bring it up to the camera so you can actually see. Hopefully, you can see. If I put it onto something else, there's that little. I don't know if that's going to work. Hang on. I don't know if you can see that. But for going inside chassis and checking bodywork, they're absolutely perfect. And